and launch the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Let's take our seats. Asante sana. Let me, on behalf of the government and people of Kenya, welcome our friends and brothers from our region, both in the East African community and IGAD. Welcome to Nairobi. We look forward to hosting you, and congratulations to IOM for putting this report together, a report about migration, the status of migration in our region. 2 days ago or 3 days ago, we were having this conversation as to who came from where. And migration is not a new phenomenon. It's been here with us for a long time. In fact, communities, societies, and nations are products of people moving from different parts. They are actually products of migration of one form or another. My good friend, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, speaks the same language to a great extent with people in Burundi, people in Rwanda, and to good measure, the language I speak, people in Sudan and other areas up north speak the same language, meaning that we arrived here, all of us, from somewhere. And therefore, we must not give credibility or credence to the artificial boundaries that exist in our region, a product of a conference in Berlin that had nothing to do with us, that partitioned our continent and allocated us boundaries that have since become roadblocks and impediments and barriers to the movement of people, the movement of goods, and it is our responsibility in this century to tear down the barriers, to convert the boundaries into bridges, to change the roadblocks into stepping stones so that goods, services, ideas, people can move and we can benefit from the myriad of good ideas in different parts of our continent and not work against nature. I think the drive of nature is that humanity is continuously on the move. That is why I am glad to join you and the International Organization for Migration in the launch of this highly informative report, The State of Migration in East and the Horn of Africa. This report is the fruit of a successful collaboration between IOM, the East African Community, and IGAD, and I am delighted to confirm that they have produced a highly useful document that will certainly go a long way in enhancing our understanding of the complex and dynamic nature of migration in our region. It is a comprehensive overview and an astute analysis of the migration trends and patterns. It is a timely addition to the common knowledge base of policymakers and practitioners in their quest for evidence-based insights to define the formulation, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation of public policy in connection with human mobility and human migration. A distinct accomplishment of this report is the way in which it has successfully built the connection between human mobility and our most important domestic and regional aspirations thereby ensuring that various dimensions of migration as a phenomena are not addressed in isolation from other policy priorities. This nexus of policy and migration trends and what that portends for movement of people, movement of ideas, economic growth is a very, very welcome insight from this report. I therefore commend the entire team which worked on the production of the report for highlighting the nexus between human mobility and economic development and the positive role that migration plays in regional integration. Throughout human history, people have always moved near and far in search for opportunities to improve their livelihoods through trade and employment. This has enabled societies to exchange goods as well as labor and skills. Additionally, the existence of the diaspora has made tremendous contribution in increasing the confidence and deepening bonds between communities and nations. This happens even today. Our region's momentum towards a common market and our progress towards a federation has been powered by the confidence, solidarity, and fraternity that has deepened among the citizens of our countries because of living and working in close proximity amongst one another. And as has been said here, we welcome our sister nation of Somalia to join the East African community. We are looking forward to Ethiopia, Sudan, with all the challenges, to come on board so that we can build a stronger, bigger, and hopefully much prosperous region. The ability of people to move across borders makes it possible for trade in goods and services, facilitating wealth creation and socio-economic development. To the extent, therefore, that we are committed to socio-economic transformation and regional integration, we are equally irreversibly invested in human mobility. It is not possible for us to have a conversation about regional integration. It is difficult for us to have a conversation about Africa Continental Free Trade Area and trade without a conversation about human mobility. It takes people, ideas, opportunities to connect countries and to connect regions. And essentially, that is what human mobility speaks to. The development of our regional economic communities like the EAC and IGAD has highlighted the importance of human mobility and consequently given greater attraction and high importance to the need to ease the movement of people, unlock trade barriers, and address persistent challenges to integration. As a country, we have taken the policy decision that any African from any part of our continent is free to come to Kenya without acquiring visa prior to the visit. We can give them a visa at the airport. Because continuously, it is necessary for us to eliminate barriers to movement of people. Because with barriers to movement of people comes barriers to ideas and opportunities and any other good that may come with movement of people. It is not correct to use 1% of people who may not be moving for good intention to block 99% of the people who move for good intention. The management of migration also matters because it provides us with the opportunity to take care of the needs of migrants and integrate greater inclusion in order to promote equality and empower especially women and young people. As a nation, Kenya welcomes this hugely significant development in the right direction because we have a proud history of supporting human mobility to the extent of welcoming refugees to our land. As a consequence, we presently host over 500,000 refugees and asylum seekers. We are in constant partnership with local and international organizations, including the UNHCR, International Refugee Council, Danish Refugee Council, and World Food Programme to provide refugees with essential services of shelter, food, healthcare, and education. Through the comprehensive refugee response framework, the government of Kenya seeks to promote self-reliance within both the refugee population and the host communities. We take pride in our commitment to the protection and assistance of refugees, as well as the progress we have made in promoting this agenda. More critically, we appreciate with gratitude and partnership the partnership of organizations like the UNHCR, IRC, DRC, and WFP, whose support has been consistent and invaluable. As long as refugees are on our land, we are committed to ensuring that they are treated with dignity, provided with necessary support, considered and even involved in national development plans in order to facilitate their successful integration. Kenya is also a signatory to the Global Compact for Safe, Orderly, and Regular Migration, which commits us to involve all relevant stakeholders at the national, county, and community levels in ensuring the implementation of obligations to facilitate human mobility. The IOM's outreach program on migration is a welcome effort to prioritize the mainstreaming of migrant interests and human mobility considerations into national and county national development agendas. Thorough stakeholder engagement is vital for promoting greater understanding to facilitate such mainstreaming of migrant populations in our development programs. I therefore commend the IOM for the outreach effort and encourage you to extend cover technical assistance and capacity building in order to appropriately empower all stakeholders. I am delighted to see that the report also covers a very helpful detail, the existential threat of our time, that is climate change, which is a pressing matter of human safety and human security. Climate change causes extreme climate phenomena and erratic weather, which occasion drought and famine on one end and flooding and waterborne epidemics on the other. These catastrophic events are direct and indirect drivers of forced human mobility with potential to set off or escalate conflict. We have designated a dedicated State Department to deal exclusively with environmental and climate change, and its foremost priority is to support the government in formulating policies and implementing strategies to address the adverse effects of climate change, which frequently leads to forced migration and displacement, and of course, the climate refugee phenomena. I want to say that, as the report rightly indicates, climate change cannot be tackled by one country alone, and therefore a regional approach is an imperative. And as a result of that, I will be hosting between September 4th and September 6th the Africa Climate Action Summit that will bring the continent together so that we can make our contribution as a continent to this very important debate on the existential threat that humanity faces because of climate change. We have taken the position that though we are victims, we have made the least contribution to climate change. Victimhood will not define the position of Africa, because we want to be active players and we want to contribute our ideas in solving this existential threat to humanity. And hopefully we should be able to make our contribution in terms of ideas, because we believe that climate change presents an opportunity to the African continent to be able to leverage the assets that we have, the huge energy resources, geothermal, solar, wind, hydro, huge resources, and our mineral resources, together with our growing market of close to 2.5 billion people by 2050, and also our youth dividend that we can provide the labor for the globe. And that conversation is the conversation we want to have. In fact, we should be least worried about the current migration trends. We know there is a problem of migration to Europe through the Mediterranean. I dare say that's a very temporary problem. Migration will be in the opposite direction shortly. It won't be long. I must take this opportunity to congratulate my brother, elder brother at that, the President of Uganda, His Excellency President Yoweri Museveni, for pioneering the landmark Kampala Ministerial Declaration on Migration, Environment and Climate Change, which was signed by 15 states, including Kenya, in July last year. It is my pleasure to reaffirm the government of Kenya's full support to the declaration. As I have said, I will be pleased to host in Kenya the Africa Climate Summit in September this year. This is expected to help Africa solidify its common continental position ahead of the UN General Assembly's Climate Action Summit and COP27, and to secure concrete actions towards a just transition to an African era of clean, green industrialization. I am very clear in my mind that Africa can make a huge contribution to this debate. I also want to say that as a continent, it is our responsibility to deal with the challenges that exist in our region. We are happy as Kenya to participate in stabilizing Eastern DRC with the challenges of conflict in DRC. We are working with our brothers and sisters in Somalia to ensure that even as the drawdown of the troops that is expected by next year, we have a concrete plan on how Somalia is going to move on as a state. And also, many of us are seized with the challenge that we have in Sudan at the moment. And as a region, and as a continent, and as a people, our message to the generals in Sudan is clear and unequivocal. They have no business whatsoever destroying the hard-earned years, many years of developing Sudan. The bombing of buildings, hospitals, and infrastructure is unacceptable. Those generals have no business They have no reason destroying a country that has been built painstakingly by the people of this continent, by our brothers and sisters in Sudan, and we will hold them accountable. They have absolutely no reason to destroy people's business, people's livelihoods, cause unnecessary chaos and mayhem when the quarrel can be solved by dialogue, by a conversation, and we are determined to stop our continent from the slide into military rule. This continent is ready, and we are prepared as the people of this continent to build our democratic institutions and to get the people of this continent to choose the government they want. The era of military rule, the era of dictatorships is behind us. And we want to send a very clear signal to our brothers in Sudan that this continent will not entertain any military rule in Sudan. The transition that had been painstakingly worked on by many stakeholders, that was disrupted by saboteurs and spoilers at the tail end on just one issue of the integration of the RSF and the SAF. We cannot allow a small disagreement to take away the hard-earned gains, the painstaking agreements that have been reached. And that is why today there is a meeting of IGAD. We have been building a coalition of many partners across the globe to stop the slide in Sudan. And Kenya, we will be playing our role because we owe it as a duty of responsibility to our brothers and sisters in Sudan as members of our continent. And that is our position. I want to thank IOM and my good brother here, Mohammed, for being one of the front runners in supporting our common effort in building a sustainable future for all, and for ensuring that the mobility dimensions are well integrated in our efforts to tackle climate change, amongst all the other challenges that we face. Once again, I commend the authors, contributors, editorial and production teams for the thorough work that has made this fine publication, The State of Migration in East and the Horn of Africa, possible. I invite the relevant policymakers in the region to use the report's analysis and policy suggestions to enhance economic development and advance regional integration through their human mobility dimensions. It is now my pleasure to declare the report on the state of migration in East and the Horn of Africa launched. Thank you very much. And God bless you. Asanteni sana.
One more round of applause for His Excellency for that wonderful speech. And at this point, Your Excellency, with your permission, would like to have the report officially handed over to you by the Regional Director, IOM. So if we can kindly just come on stage, Director, so that you can hand over the report to His Excellency. And then in turn, we'll have the reports also handed over to a few other stakeholders. And after that, we'll have a photo before we wind up. So Your Excellency, kindly, with your permission, you can come and receive the report.